So finally, the new RTX 4080 is here in all its glory. But now, will it surprise or disappoint us with a 50% price hike compared to the previous RTX 3080? Well, at least it's still cheaper than the 4090, but we'll see how they actually compare against each other. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to We Do Tech, and also to my look at the Gigabyte Aorus Master RTX 4080, the biggest RTX 4000 series card that I believe that you can actually get, being also the same shroud as the 4090 Master, and that one was also already a freaking beast. Now recently I already did my review of the RTX 4090 gaming OC, which pricing and power aside delivered a crazy performance, absolutely destroying games in a 4K. But now, will I be surprised just as much with the 4080, or will it be slightly let down? Well, let's find out. But before we begin, are you planning to upgrade to the new RTX 4000 series, or are you sticking with your current setup? If you are, which card do you think you're probably going to get? A 4080 or 4090? Maybe once the more affordable cards that come out, maybe one of those, or are you planning to switch to something else? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, starting off with pricing, the RTX 4080 has an MSRP of $1,200, which is more than a 50% price hike compared to the RTX 3080 at launch of only $700 or $800 for the 12GB version. The 4080 actually has the exact same price as the 3080 Ti had at launch. Kind of sounds like in Nvidia still thinks we're used to paying scalper pricing for GPUs, and that ship definitely has sailed. So we'll see how many people actually get a 4080 at this price point. However, for the Aorus Master RTX 4080, which we're going to take a look at, this one will possibly cost around $100 more compared to the reference card at around $1,300. But you do also have the gaming OC and also the Eagle, which will be slightly cheaper again than the Master here. So you do have a couple of options there. But now with all of the mining also being over and you being able to get a lot of cards second hand, 3090s, 3090 Ti's, even 3080 Ti's for a relatively lowish price, will the 4080 actually perform well enough compared to the previous high-end cards, or will people rather just go second hand and buy the previous top of the range cards? Well, we'll definitely see. Now, specs wise, the RTX 4080 does have lesser cores than the 3080 Ti and also a smaller memory bus, even compared to the 3080 10GB, which is a bit disappointing. But with 16 gigs of VRAM and a much faster clock speeds, it does somewhat make up for that. Now, the 12GB version is also turning into the RTX 4070 Ti, so we'll see how that actually turns out, being also much lower in specs, and also rumors saying that it's around 30% slower than even the 4080 here, so we'll see what happens then, and we still need to wait for a 4070 standard then. It's definitely going to be an exciting time for GPUs. Now, if you have watched my gaming OC 4090 review, you remember I was blown away by the size of that card. Well, this card is even bigger. The 4080 uses the same shroud and also, I believe, a cooling system as the 4090 Master. So it's definitely a massive, but I think that's going to be a positive for this card because you're getting 4090 cooling on a 4080 card. So cooling won't be a problem here, but we'll get into that a bit later. However, your case might have a bit of a problem fitting this card because it's almost a 4-slot card. And like I mentioned in the beginning, I believe this is the largest 4000 series card, the 4080 Master and also the 4090 Master, that you can actually get. So again, definitely just make sure that it can actually fit in your case because it's wider, longer, thicker, everything all around. So just make sure about that. I was pleasantly surprised that it actually fit in my Corsair 4000D case. I was happy about that because I didn't want to build an entirely new system to fit just the GPU to do this video. So luckily that wasn't the case. Now, styling is also relatively simple with the black and gray color scheme, but what's not that simple is the LCD display on the side, which can show temperatures, clock speeds, usage, fan speeds, as well as a text that you can set, and also a picture GIF or just the Aorus Eagle chilling around there. Now, one kind of weird thing is the RGB on the fans. The new design Gigabyte went with only lets the RGB light up when the fans are actually spinning, and it's only after 70% fan speeds that it actually looks more solid. Otherwise, it's more of a strobing type of effect. Now, I personally didn't find that as a problem, but some might. Now, on the positive side, it does have a bit of a different effect, which compared to some of the other cards out there, so you do have the option of different styling at least. And then also you do get your dual bias switch on the side of the card for your performance or your quiet mode. Now for I/O, just like the 4090, you do get a 3 DisplayPort version 1.4As and a 1 HDMI 2.1 port. Unfortunately, there's no DisplayPort version 2, which can go up much higher than HDMI 2.1, also 1.4. So that's unfortunate, especially for the 4090 cards. Not necessarily so disappointing for the 4080, as you'll most likely not play anything like 8K, 4K, 240 Hz. That it is possible with this card, so that would have been nice at least, but I don't think there's a monitor out yet that actually supports that, so not the biggest loss really, so for now. Now, if you want to see a more graphics card video, subscribe, because I do have a bunch more to come all around different 4080s, so definitely subscribe for that. And also, of course, for the second channel for some unboxings and a first look. So all of that will be linked in the video description. As for power, you again get the new 16-pin PCI Express 5 power connector, but now you only need 3 8-pin PCI Express power connector from your power supply instead of 4 like the 4090. So it does help out slightly there. Now, just like the 4090 video that I mentioned, be careful, because with the adapter there has been a couple out there that actually burnt out on the adapter itself, and also it actually damaged the power connector on the card as well. Now, there's not that many going around, but it seems to be something with the power adapter where the soldering isn't proper, especially with all of the power going through that, especially on, again, the 4090, much higher power draw. But it seems only to happen when they actually bend the power adapter too far. So I didn't even close my side panel on my case, I just left it as it is because I don't want to potentially damage anything. But from all of the 4090 information that we got, it's only the included NVIDIA adapters. There are third-party ones and also power supplies that actually support dedicated cables, so that might be a better route to go through, at least for now, until we do know that the included power adapters for the 4080s is fine. Now, as for the power draw, the 4080 does have a rated TDP of 320 watts, and in most games a power draw range between 250 to 300 watts, but it did also see spikes up to 330 watts. Now, I did also bump up the power draw and also did a slight overclock, and then I saw spikes just below 350 watts. Now, because of that, an 800 watt power supply or higher is recommended, especially if you are planning to run an i9 13900K as well, like I did for all of my benchmarks. Previously, I only had a 750 watt power supply, and it wasn't really going to cut it, especially when I did my 4090 video. So luckily, Cooler Monster sent over their M2000 a 2000 watt platinum power supply, which is entirely overkill, but it definitely gets the job done, and hopefully it will at least last a year or two until the 5000 series RTX cards comes out. But we'll hope for that. Now, because the 4080 Master again uses the same cooling design and shroud as the 4090, but uses around 100 less watts, cooling was no issue here. With an ambient temperature of 23 degrees, the card never went over 60 degrees and 71% fan speed. The fans do ramp up quite quickly from 0 to over 50% on the default fan curve. However, you can adjust that to your liking, ramping up slower or quicker or whatever. You do have that option as well. As for the fans, they are quite large at 110 millimeters, almost desktop size fans of 120 millimeters, which does help keep the temperatures and also noise down, with it only reaching 43 decibels at that 70% fan speed, with a room noise of 38 decibels. Now, as for how the RTX 4080 Master performed, well, I paired it up with the super toasty i9-13900K, 32 gigs of Kingston's Fury Beast RGB memory running at 5600 MHz, and the Aorus Master Z790. With all of the games set on Ultra with no DLSS on 1440p, all of the games reach over 100 frames a second. When enabling a DLSS or FSR and ray tracing, we get a nice up to 25% increase in FPS, except for the new Plague Tale, which hit almost 70% instead of 25%. So that was definitely quite surprising. Then for the 4K, it was only on Cyberpunk on Ultra without a DLSS, where it fell below 60 frames. All the rest with pretty much max settings on 4K did over 60 frames a second. Definitely not bad. But now when enabling a DLSS, you do get upwards of a 50% bump in FPS, and now instead of 70% for a Plague Tale, you get 90%. This does make a 4K 144Hz much easier to actually obtain just by dropping some of the settings slightly, not ultra, maybe just high or very high, and then enabling DLSS, and you're right there. Now, unfortunately, I did not have a RTX 3090 or 3090 Ti to actually compare it to because of the new system with the i9-13900K. I wasn't able to test that, but I was able to compare it to the RTX 4090. And on 1440p, the 4090 was between 7 to 50% faster than the 4080. However, in 4K, it was actually much slower between all of the games, going up between 24 to 45%, which is quite the difference. Now, when it comes to Blender, the 4090 is over 30% faster, and in spec view perf, it's around 25% faster. As for clock speeds, the reference in a video card has a boost clock of 2.51 GHz, while the Master hits up 2.55 GHz. That's only on a paper, and on a game on stock settings, it averaged 2.835 GHz, and with a slight overclock, it hits 2.88 GHz. And I do believe with enough tinkering, you might even able to hit 3 GHz on air, although I didn't try that and I'm not necessarily going to, but it's definitely close enough that you could possibly reach that. So then, in conclusion, the 4080 doesn't disappoint in performance. However, at the price range, it is going to keep a lot of previous 80 buyers away, and at 33% cheaper than the 4090, but also around 25% slower, the 4090 might actually be a better buy, of course, if you do have the extra cash lying around. I would have definitely liked to see how it compared to the 3090 and also the 3080 Ti, because of the price range, it's much closer and not necessarily close enough to compare it against the 3080, being almost, again, double the price point. It's not even on the same league anymore to really compare. However, after this video, I'm definitely going to do a comparison, so stay tuned for that one. So my final thoughts are that the Master is a very nice looking card, especially I do like the LCD display on the side. The cooling I'm very happy about, again, keeping, I believe, the mostly the same cooling design on as the 4090, so that's very good. And again, performance is just very good as well. 4K 144 is possible, so without lowering the settings too much, definitely not bad. I'm actually also planning to do a comparison with the 4080 compared to the 3080 and also compared to the 2080 to see how those perform. I might even throw in the 980 in there as well. Unfortunately, I don't have a 1080, so we're gonna skip one generation maybe. But now, is it the 4080 actually worth buying? Well, we'll probably also get a 4080 Ti, and also the X of 4080, the 12 gig version, is turning into the 4070 Ti. So I would also wait a bit to see just how all of the different ones actually compare, because as of yet, everything is just a bit too mushed up all together. I'm not sure how everything is going to compare, especially once a 4070 comes out as well, but the 4070 Ti is already kind of pure, so it's a bit of a mess, really. But again, 4K 144 Hz easily obtainable with this card. Now I just need to actually get a 4K 144 Hz monitor. So I'll see what I can do. But I'm also going to have to send this card back, so that's unfortunate as well. But anyway, that's pretty much it for my review of the Aorus RTX 4080 Master. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and comment like always. Big shout out to Gigabyte South Africa sending the card over for a review, and also just providing all of the hardware or motherboard for the 4090 as well. Big shout out to them. Now, if you guys want to get this card for yourself, I will leave links in the video description once it's actually available. Pre-order should start today as well, so definitely check that out. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll check all of you next time. Cheers, guys.